young man named Gao Han had just graduated as the top student from his university. It was a remarkable achievement for someone who came from such a poor and humble family. His parents made their living selling drinking water, yet they sacrificed everything so their son could get an education, hoping one day he could lift their family out of poverty. But after graduation, Gao Han learned that the working world doesn't just look at grades. It values connections, social class, and even where you come from. Months passed in the capital city, and Gao Han kept applying for jobs. His resume had been sent everywhere, but the responses were always rejection after rejection. Many companies only wanted graduates from elite universities, especially those who had studied abroad. Gao Han, meanwhile, was just a graduate from a small private college in his hometown. And so began his fall into illusion and ambition. This is a gilded game. However, Gao Han has a friend, Mike, the son of a wealthy businessman, who could have easily recommended him for a position at a major company. But Gao Han was an idealist. He didn't want to rely on anyone's help or influence. He wanted to earn his success through his own effort. As the days went by without work, the pressure at home grew heavier. His parents wanted him to become a government employee, a job they saw as stable and secure. But Gao Han had different dreams. He wanted to work in finance, to enter the world of banking and investments, to deal with stocks and capital markets. In his eyes, that was the only path that could truly change his family's fate. Meanwhile, his parents were aging and still working hard every day. Gao Han realized he could no longer burden them. He had to start helping them instead. With no money left, he decided to stay temporarily at his girlfriend Xiao Hui's apartment. Xiao Hui was an extraordinary woman. While everyone else doubted him and looked down on him, she was the only one who believed that one day Gao Han would achieve his dreams. After being rejected by company after company, an unexpected opportunity finally arrived. Gao Han landed an internship at a large financial corporation called Bluestone. It was the result of his persistence, but luck played a small part too. The father of his friend Anna had recommended that Bluestone open one extra internship position for one of their partner programs. Bluestone was one of the financial giants in China, handling investments, stock markets, and helping companies raise capital through initial public offerings, or IPOs. At Bluestone, Gao Han started from the very bottom as an unpaid intern with a 6-month contract, and no guarantee of being hired afterward. On his first day, he was immediately looked down upon by his supervisor. His suit was old, unbranded, and wrinkled, making him stand out among the other interns who came from wealth and privilege. After work, Gao Han sat in silence, staring at his nearly empty bank account. He had nothing left, yet Xiao Hui surprised him. She used her own savings to buy him a new suit. It wasn't expensive, but it was enough to give him a boost of confidence he hadn't felt in a long time. His journey at Bluestone only got tougher when he was placed under the supervision of Zhang, a senior financial analyst known for his strict standards and sharp intuition. Zhang had spent decades in the finance world. He understood how fragile the market could be, how one small mistake could bring a company down, and that this industry was no place for the weak. Seeing Gao Han's humble background as the son of a water seller and a graduate of a small local college, Zhang doubted him from the start. To Zhang, the world of high finance was reserved for those with elite education, powerful families, and strong connections. But for Gao Han, that was exactly the reason he wanted to succeed. He was determined to prove that background doesn't define destiny. After asking for chances again and again, Zhang finally gave him one. Gao Han showed that he wasn't just eager, he was smart. He understood current market issues and wasn't afraid to offer opinions on tough financial cases. Soon after, Zhang asked him to drive him to a client meeting. Gao Han's driving skills impressed him. Back in college, he had worked part-time as a paid driver to earn extra money, and it showed. They arrived at a helicopter manufacturing company that Bluestone was planning to invest in. Zhang wasted no time inspecting the product himself, checking every detail of the aircraft. Without hesitation, he disassembled several parts, revealing that the company had used components from premium suppliers. That discovery raised questions among the investors and shifted the tone of the meeting. From that experience, Gao Han learned something important. Finance wasn't just about numbers and calculations. It was about integrity, accuracy, and making sure every investment was backed by honesty and transparency. He also grew to admire Zhang's principles and his sharp, unshakable sense of right and wrong. Their teamwork paid off, and the project was a success. Zhang began to see potential in Gao Han. On their way back, he gave him advice. If Gao Han truly wanted to learn from him, he had to be disciplined. Every day, he needed to check financial updates, follow market policies, and study both domestic and global trends. Every morning, he was to prepare reports and even a cup of black coffee for Zhang. It wasn't just about obedience, it was training, a test of commitment. Soon, his first major task arrived. Gao Han was assigned to prepare an IPO proposal for a new client. He worked hard, but the result fell short. The presentation failed to impress, and the potential clients rejected it outright. They even tried to manipulate the deal for their own gain. The project collapsed before it began, but Zhang wasn't disappointed. For him, it was better to walk away from a dishonest deal than to win through deceit. On the rooftop of the Bluestone building, Zhang and Gao Han sat together overlooking the city below. Zhang shared a hard truth about the world of investment. It was filled with greedy people who would do anything for profit. And in that moment, Gao Han saw Zhang's true character. He was honest, disciplined, and never willing to take part in corruption, no matter the reward. But Gao Han's lessons were far from over. Soon after, he was given another big challenge to handle an IPO proposal for a pet food company called Lucky Dog. Gao Han poured every ounce of effort into it, working day and night. This time he wanted to do something different, something that stood out. Instead of a dull financial report, he designed the proposal like a magazine, complete with visuals and creative layouts. When the proposal was ready, he and Zhang met with the company's owner, a woman named Buma. During the meeting, Buma was surprised by Gao Han's genuine knowledge about dogs. He mentioned his childhood pet, and that small detail caught her attention. Impressed and intrigued, she invited him to visit her home later that evening to discuss things further. Excited and hopeful, Gao Han went, thinking it was about finalizing the deal, but when he arrived, he realized this meeting wasn't about business at all. Buma had other intentions. She tried to seduce him, promising to accept his proposal if he agreed to spend the night with her. Gao Han refused. Feeling rejected, Buma made another demand. She told him she would sign the contract only if he ate dog food right in front of her. At first, Gao Han hesitated, but then he thought about his situation, his parents who still worked tirelessly, and Xiao Hui who had sacrificed so much for him. Compared to all that, swallowing his pride seemed like nothing. So he did it, hoping it would finally secure the deal. Later that night, he went home and vomited in disgust. But even through the shame, he convinced himself it was worth it, that he would do whatever it took to earn a permanent position at Bluestone. Days passed, and then the news came. Buma never signed the proposal. She had tricked him. Gao Han was crushed. Everything he endured had been for nothing. When Zhang found out, he gave him a lesson that would stay with him forever. In the world of finance, he said, promises only matter when they're written in a contract. Otherwise, they're just empty words. Despite all the challenges, Gao Han began to find his footing. After going through countless trials during his internship, he finally started to make a name for himself inside Bluestone. People still saw him as the new guy, but his energy and determination were hard to ignore. Around that time, the company's main director fell seriously ill and had to undergo long-term treatment overseas. The absence left a temporary leadership gap, and that role was filled by a woman named Helen. She was sharp, ambitious, and confident, known for her charisma but also for her hunger for power. Not long after stepping into her new position, Helen announced an ambitious mega project that, according to her, would elevate Bluestone's reputation to new heights. Every board member was asked to sign off on it. Everyone agreed, except for one person, Zhang. To Zhang, something about the project didn't add up. With decades of experience in finance, his instincts told him something was off. His refusal was enough to halt the plan entirely because he was one of the most respected figures in the company. Helen knew Zhang wouldn't be easy to persuade. She had known him for years and understood how stubborn he could be. So she came up with a different strategy. Instead of targeting Zhang directly, she went after his weak spot, Gao Han, the one person Zhang still trusted completely. Before approaching him, Helen had already done her research. She knew everything about Gao Han, his struggles, his ambitions, and his insecurities. She offered him everything he had ever dreamed of: a permanent position at Bluestone, a big bonus, luxury benefits, and even a new apartment. All of it on one condition. He had to convince Zhang to sign the project approval, no matter how he did it. At first, Gao Han hesitated. He knew what this meant, but in the end, temptation won. He accepted Helen's offer even though it meant betraying the mentor who had guided him. Using his intelligence, Gao Han began altering documents and adjusting reports to make the project appear legitimate. His manipulation worked. Eventually, he managed to get Zhang's signature. The next day, the project was approved. When Zhang discovered what had happened, he was shocked. Realizing he had been deceived by his own student, he quietly resigned that very day, unable to continue working in an environment built on betrayal. For Helen, Zhang's departure was a major victory. With her biggest obstacle gone, she began grooming Gao Han for a more central role in Bluestone's operations. His next challenge came quickly. Bluestone was preparing to partner with a large manufacturing firm called HC, which was seeking funding. During the meeting, the HC executives acted confident and demanded a large share of profits. What they didn't know was that Gao Han had already done his homework. Before the meeting, he personally visited the company's production sites and discovered irregularities in their shipment records, signs of possible fraud. He waited for the perfect moment, then revealed his findings to the entire room. The evidence was undeniable. The HC representatives were cornered and had no choice but to admit their deception. In the end, they agreed to a deal that gave Bluestone a much larger share of the profits. What Gao Han did that day left a deep impression on Helen. From that moment, his position was made official. He was no longer just an intern. Helen kept her promise, rewarding him with a modern apartment in the heart of the city. His life completely transformed. The once struggling intern now lived among the elite, surrounded by tall glass walls, stunning skyline views, and the kind of luxury he used to only dream about. And when he moved in, he brought Xiaohui with him, wanting to share the life he had finally achieved. Not long after, Helen promoted Gao Han again, this time as her personal assistant. He began traveling with her on business trips across countries, attending high-level meetings and negotiating with powerful clients. One of those trips took them to Hong Kong. After a long night of drinks and discussions with clients, Helen, slightly drunk, asked Gao Han to take her to her room. He helped her back safely, but before he could leave, she stopped him. Both of them were half-conscious, and that night, a line was crossed. The next morning, Gao Han woke up confused and filled with regret. Helen, on the other hand, brushed it off easily, saying she didn't take it seriously. But for Gao Han, the guilt was heavy. He felt as though he had betrayed the woman who had stood by him since the beginning, Xiaohui. A few days later, Bluestone held a major company meeting. Everyone was stunned when Helen announced that Gao Han would replace a senior manager to lead a massive new project. Many questioned how someone so new could rise so quickly, but Helen's decision was final, and Gao Han, blinded by ambition, accepted it without hesitation. What he didn't know was that Helen had her own plans. The project involved a company called New Life, led by the father of his old friend, Mike. New Life specialized in renewable energy, a bold and innovative field, but one that required enormous funding. Helen realized that Gao Han's friendship with Mike and his father could give her the leverage she needed. After several meetings between the three of them, Helen proposed a deal. Bluestone would invest a large sum into New Life. But there was a condition. The company had to keep its stock prices above a certain level. If the price dropped below that point, the majority of New Life's shares would automatically transfer to Bluestone. It was a risky gamble. If things went well, New Life would grow rapidly. But if anything went wrong, they could lose everything. Driven by greed and pride, Gao Han persuaded Mike and his father to take the deal. He truly believed their hydrogen energy innovation would skyrocket in value. Mike had doubts, knowing how fragile their company still was, but Gao Han kept pushing. In the end, Mike's father signed the agreement. Not long after, Helen made her next move. She sent a hotel reservation receipt under both her and Gao Han's names directly to Xiaohui's address. The moment Xiaohui saw it, her heart shattered. She thought the man she had supported through all his struggles had betrayed her. For years, she had stood by Gao Han when no one else believed in him, but now it seemed all that loyalty had been repaid with deceit. No matter how much Gao Han tried to explain, Xiaohui no longer believed him. She packed her things and walked away, leaving him completely alone. Meanwhile, the day came for New Life stocks to be officially traded. What no one knew was that Helen had secretly struck a deal with the company's suppliers to cut off their materials. Without raw resources, New Life's operations came to a halt. At first, their stock price had looked promising, but soon it began to plummet. Panic spread among investors. The excitement surrounding the IPO turned into chaos as the stock's value fell lower and lower until it hit rock bottom. And when it did, the majority of New Life's shares automatically transferred to Bluestone. Helen smiled in satisfaction. For Bluestone, it was a massive victory. But for New Life, it was absolute ruin. The collapse didn't just destroy a company, it destroyed lives. Mike's father, who had spent his entire life building that business, couldn't bear the loss. The stress took a toll on his health, and his heart gave out. He passed away shortly after. Mike was left broken, grieving not just his father, but also the company that had been their family's pride and the friendship he once trusted. For Gao Han, it became a nightmare he couldn't escape. He had once believed success could erase his struggles, but now he saw the cost of his ambition. The guilt consumed him. He had everything he once wanted, yet he had lost everything that mattered. One night, he found himself standing on the rooftop of the Bluestone building, the same place where he used to clear his thoughts with Zhang. He looked down at the city, lost and defeated, wondering if ending it all would finally bring him peace. But before he could make that choice, he called Zhang. Despite all the disappointment and betrayal, Zhang still came. Standing beside him, Zhang told him something simple but powerful, that a man can be broken many times, but he can never truly be defeated. Those words reignited a spark in Gao Han. For the first time in a long while, he felt purpose again. He decided to fix what he had destroyed, no matter the risk. He went to Mike, sincerely apologizing for everything. At first, Mike wanted nothing to do with him. His pain was too deep. But as Gao Han spoke from the heart, owning his mistakes and showing genuine remorse, Mike saw that this was not the same man who had betrayed him. In the end, he gave Gao Han a second chance. With Mike's approval and Zhang's guidance, Gao Han began to plan his move. This time, he wasn't chasing ambition, but redemption. Their plan started with a clever illusion. They spread rumors that a major investor from the Middle East was interested in buying New Life. The goal wasn't to sell anything, but to shape public perception. In the stock market, confidence can create reality. Next, they worked to control the narrative online. Social media buzzed with speculation about the company's comeback. While the public grew excited, Gao Han and his allies moved to the third phase. They quietly began buying large portions of New Life stock, while the price was still low, using brokers they had prepared in advance. As they fueled the demand and built momentum, the price started to climb fast. Traders who had bet against the stock were forced to buy back their positions, sending the price even higher. It was a classic short squeeze. If the plan succeeded, it wouldn't just push the price up. It would trap Helen and Bluestone in a disastrous financial position. The strategy went into motion. Positive market sentiment spread like wildfire. Seeing the sudden rise, Helen panicked. She knew that if Bluestone lost control of the majority shares, her entire reputation would crumble. Desperate, she ordered her team to buy as many shares as possible, even at inflated prices. Meanwhile, Gao Han, Mike, and Zhang kept driving the price higher. The market exploded in chaos. Within days, New Life stock soared to record levels. By then, Bluestone had bought far too much at unsustainable prices, while the majority of the shares had already fallen into Gao Han's hands. At the perfect moment, Mike announced a halt in trading, claiming it was for internal restructuring. The sudden freeze crushed Bluestone. They were stuck with overpriced shares they could no longer sell. The company's money was trapped, and Helen's empire collapsed overnight. Gao Han and Mike had finally taken their revenge, but victory came at a cost. Their actions drew attention from the authorities, and both of them faced legal consequences. Still, for Mike, it was worth it. He would rather face punishment than watch his father's legacy die in the hands of greed. As for Helen, the woman who once held all the power, she lost everything. Her confidence, her influence, her career, all gone. When it was over, Gao Han walked away from Bluestone and the world that had nearly destroyed him. He sought out Xiao Hui, hoping to make things right. He explained everything, not expecting forgiveness, but needing her to know the truth. He promised himself that he would never again let ambition control him, nor take part in a corrupt system that ruined lives for profit. In the final moments, Gao Han is seen joining Zhang's new private financial firm, a smaller, independent company built on honesty and trust. Together, they share one principle above all else: to seek success without destroying others to get there. So the moral of the story is, sometimes the higher you climb chasing success, the lonelier it becomes when you realize you've lost everyone who ever believed in you.